I go to a lot of churches. I normally ask them, I say, do you believe this book is true? And most people will say yes, and then I'll ask them why. Do you know what answer I get more than any other, unfortunately? Because I have faith. Is that a good answer? Does your faith change whether or not this book is true? Does your faith change whether or not God exists or Jesus rose from the dead? No, of course not. I mean, do you have to believe something to make it true? Do you have to believe in gravity to stay on the ground? Do people who don't believe in gravity float away? Hey, look, there's another one. Hey, if you believe, you'll come back. No, that's not the way it works. You say, why is the Bible always talking about faith then? Because there's two kinds of faith. There's belief that, and then there's belief in. Belief that is getting evidence that God exists, that Jesus rose from the dead, that the Bible is true. Belief that is intellectual. It's getting evidence, apologetics, trying to figure out if this stuff is true. But belief in is after you know that it's true, trusting in Jesus for your salvation. See, most of the time when the Bible's talking about faith, it's talking about the second kind. Trust in. After you know that it's true, trust in. In fact, one of the only theological comments that the Apostle John, in fact, any of the gospel writers make, is in John chapter 20. Most of the time they're just reporting, here's what Jesus said, here's what Jesus did. In John chapter 20, John says, and these things were done so that you may know that Jesus is the Christ, and by trusting in him, you can have salvation. You see, there's belief that and belief in one verse. Belief that is intellectual, belief in is volitional. In fact, marriage is a good illustration of belief that, belief in. When I first met my wife, about 30 years ago, I got evidence that she would be a good wife. But all the evidence in the world didn't make her my wife. I had to take a step of trust in her to ask her to be my wife. And in a momentary lapse of judgment, she said yes. See, that's the difference between belief that and belief in. Don't buy into this idea that Christianity is blind faith. It's anything but. You know what blind faith is? Atheism. In fact, we'll talk more about it tonight. Belief in, or I should say belief that is evidence. Belief in is the heart. Belief that is intellectual. Belief in is more volitional. And if you don't want to believe in God, you don't have to. You don't want to believe in Christ, you don't have to. God will not force you into heaven against your will.